Hola. Buenos dias, Barcelona. Guten Morgen, guten Tag. Wer spricht Deutsch? Andere kommt aus Deutschland, Österreich? Nein, Österreich. Dobry den? Czech Republic? Dobry den? No? A little bit. Don't worry, it'll be in English today. But luckily, I found that everyone in Barcelona speaks English, which is helpful for me. Because I only know a little bit of Spanish. Where's the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el baño? Una cerveza, por favor. Lo siento. That's been really helpful getting around today. So excited to be here with you all. One of my favorite things about this festival is just how international it really is. I mean, over the last couple of days, I've just met so many wonderful people from so many different countries, learning little bits of their language, little bits of their process. And the thing that I love about design is just that, just how international it is. You know, we're all doing the same thing, navigating, tough clients, navigating feedback, trying to be problem solvers and make really creative work with one another. And, one of the things I'm going to get into today is just kind of how that international language is kind of transitioning to become some of the words that we all know together. Some of my favorite design language is pulled from different countries. One word I love is Gesamtkunstwerk. So basically it's this like total work of art. This idea when you see something, it just totally encapsulates you, brings you in. I think about the early days when I got into design and motion graphics. Seeing the things like Chromosphere, Chromosphere, Forms in Nature, which is really good, or Buck, Metamorphosis, some of these projects that are just so encapsulating, they just feel so total, and they're right. Another word I like is Jugend. It's basically this feeling that you get after you see a work of art that's so impactful for you. I know some of the early days of my career, just really trying to decipher and pull apart a lot of these animations and seeing what goes into it, just how much it resonated with me and the feeling that you get in doing what you love. Those are two of the good words. Sometimes there's not so good words. Some of those could be things like burnout, where you just feel a little bit dead inside. I know I can't be the only one that's navigated burnout. Has anyone in here as a creative navigated burnout? Yes, I see a few of you. Those that aren't raising your hand, you got to tell me what you're doing differently. But yeah, burnout, unfortunately, is a very real thing in the creative space. We have tough deadlines, tricky clients. You're always trying to find ways to get things done a bit sooner. The business side of design kind of presses it a bit. And I experienced burnout myself, in fact, to a really bad point back in 2014 and 2015. I had gotten this job at this agency, and I was super excited to be working there and was having a great time. But then I ran into some personal things that came up that really made me kind of question if I really liked design. This is Honey and Ty. Honey on the left is my grandmother, my mom's mom. She's a German Czech immigrant that she met my grandfather at the end of World War II. It's the cutest story. We call her Honey as grandkids because she's just so sweet and was always so nice to the grandkids. So instead of grandmom or Mutti, we called her Honey. But Honey has a pretty crazy story. At the end of World War II, a lot of Europe was in disarray. She was trying to escape Prague and get over to Munich, Germany, where a lot of the Americans were stationed. And she was so bold, I don't know, they didn't have dating apps back then, so my grandmom was trying to find, her future partner. So she walked up to this American camp and was like, "Excuse me, darling, can you please go get the tall captain?" And the guy's like, "What are you talking about? What tall captain?" He goes, "The tall one." So this guy goes to find the tallest person that he knows, which coincidentally happens to be my 6'3", 6'4" grandfather. So that's proactive dating. You want to get someone tall, just go talk. So Honey, my grandmother, she spoke 4 languages, Czech, German, French, and English, and quickly became an interpreter for my grandfather. They fell in love, moved back to the States, and had 3 kids, one of which was my mom, and we had a plethora of grandkids. And my grandmother, she was just such a matriarch of our family, really brought us together, was so fun because she had this Eastern European, German, abrasiveness a little bit is the best way to describe it. She would just be really blunt, tell you how it is. But then, of course, she's so sweet, we call her Honey, which is really great as well. So it was really hard for our family when Honey got sick. She started to develop cancer, and we all kind of knew it was probably her time, which is always hard to navigate, And at this moment in my career, I had been working as a motion designer at this agency, and I worked my way up, was at this art director position, and felt really confident and proud of the work that I was doing. And so while family and friends gathered to kind of celebrate Honey and her, final times with us, I wasn't able to do that because I had a big project that had to get out the door, and the company was really depending on me to do that. And so ultimately, while my family all hung out, celebrated Honey's life, and we're up there, I was stuck at work with a sleeping bag under my desk, putting in about 100 hours, all for a CEO that unfortunately drove a Ferrari with a license plate that said hard work. Yikes. That's a real thing. And I was so distraught by that whole situation and really just kind of disgusted with myself. I just made the assumption that I would get the support that I needed for my work, that they would give me the time off to be with family because, that's what we have. That's everything. But the reality was that I didn't get that, and it's a moment that I can never have back. And so I just felt so frustrated and sick to my stomach and really just felt like I had complete burnout and I was tired of this industry. I even thought about maybe design, motion graphics wasn't for me. So fun talk, huh? This is having a good time, right? I promise you it does get better than this because this really is a redemption story. And for those who don't know me, my name is Mack Garrison. I'm the director of content and co-founder of Dash. We're a high-end animation and motion design studio built around creativity and community. We're based in Raleigh, North Carolina in the States. I know we have a big European audience. Who here knows where North Carolina is in the States? Anyone? A few of y'all. I'm so proud. So for those that don't, you got New York up here, you got Florida down here, North Carolina is like right in the middle. So, a good mix of northern and southern, it's great. So in today's talk, what I'm gonna get into is the value of community. Because like I said, this is a redemption story. This isn't something that we want to be sad about. This is a celebration. But for me, it's this journey of finding community, what that has meant to me, and ultimately how it's really helped us, supported us, and allowed us to grow as a studio. So way back in the day, when I was a student first coming out of school, I went to college at the University of North Carolina State University. They're actually, I don't know if anyone's watching basketball right now, but they're in the Final Four, which is really huge in American sports. Woo! Nice, thank you, all three of you. I don't know where I'm gonna find it at a bar tonight, but damn if I'm gonna try. But when I was in school, I just think back to the first time that I really got to experience design. And I want you all to close your eyes right now. Do this with me. And I want you to think in your head the first moments that you really got to work with design. You're collaborating, you're in the studio environment, whether it's work or school, and you're working with your peers and your friends, and you're going back and forth, you're critiquing one another, but you're supporting one another. And it's just such a raw, amazing moment. All right, you can open your eyes. Hopefully you all had a great visual in your head. Because for me, school was just such a wonderful place to experiment and to try things. So when I graduated and I got that job at the agency, I felt really excited about it. And I was still nervous. I mean, like anyone who just gets out of school, you're trying to tackle the world, take on everything, and there's all these nerves that are going. But to find an agency that I felt like had that same mentality initially, where they really try to support you was just so important to me. In fact, I have this great story. I remember it was my first day at the agency, and I don't know if anyone's ever done this before, where you look around, all the other creatives that are there, and you're like, damn, I'm the worst one here. That's how I felt. I was like, I'm the worst one here. Everyone here is better than I am. And I was so nervous that I wasn't going to be able to achieve what they wanted to. And I remember I had this project file I'd been working on and didn't realize that in the professional world, you share project files. So I'm the poor schmuck that had comp 1, comp 2, final version 3, final version 4. It was terrible naming, totally disorganized. And I shared it with the senior animator, and he was just like, what the hell is this? And I was like, look, I'm so sorry. I know my After Effects file could be bad. He was like, did anyone ever teach you how to organize your files? And I was like, no. And I thought he was gonna be so upset, but instead, he took an hour and a half, sat down with me, walked through how to organize your project files in a nice way, how to hand it off to other animators. And it's something that wasn't lost on me. Some of these other senior animators talking to me about, salaries, how to negotiate your salaries, how to talk about what you want, how to position yourself for the right projects. Some of these little tips and tricks that can easily fall by the wayside, and all these folks were sitting out there helping me. And they really gave me this ladder to climb, which I'm so thankful of. But then time goes on, and you start to get promoted like I did. So I went from junior, mid-level, senior. I was working so hard, eventually got up to this art director role. And all of a sudden, the things that I really initially liked started to fall further by the wayside. I started to realize pizza parties, free booze, ping pong tables, and all this fun stuff really wasn't that fun because it was eating up my time. I was staying late doing all these things. And unfortunately, I started to recognize the secret toxicity of the work culture. Hire young people, get them to work as hard as they can, and really start to navigate this burnout. which is ultimately what happened to me when I had that issue with my grandmother passing away. I was feeling burned out, and it's because you start working 40-hour weeks, 50-hour weeks, 60-hour weeks, with these promotions, and all of a sudden, you're in this silo. So this great opportunity of collaboration, why you got into design, to problem solve with one another, starts falling by the wayside, and that's ultimately what made me hit creative bottom. And it was probably even that slow pinwheel. I was just kind of like walking around like that, probably. So, like I said, this is a redemption story. So at that moment in time, kind of started to look for like, what's next? How can I find something to kind of lift me out of this funk and get me back on the right track? How do I tap back into that portion of design that we love so much, which is that collaboration? So around 2015, I was doing a little bit of research and found that there was this conference up in New York called F5. I don't know if anyone in here has ever attended F5 in New York. They've done it a couple of times, but it was this conference really built around creativity, thinkers, makers, storytellers, connecting and getting to know one another. It was my first time up to New York, and at the time I was like, okay, cool. I want to get up there. I want to explore the city. So I bought my not business partner yet, he was my good friend, Corey, and I had tickets up to New York, and we got there at like 5 o'clock in the morning, thinking we could see everything. Of course, everything was closed except for like bagel shops and coffee. So I think Corey still makes fun of me today that I had him fly up there at 5 o'clock in the morning. But we got to the conference eventually, and it was amazing. I mean, the whole conference was just this phenomenal group of people who were out there ready to hang out, ready to chat, ready to get to know you. Raleigh, North Carolina, it's a small town. I mean, it's big, but not in the sense of like Barcelona. It's a small growing town. So to be in this place where I could connect with all these different people with all these different paths, very similar to what's going on right here at OFF, it really left a mark on me. I just couldn't believe that all these folks were just willing to help and share their ideas. In fact, a good friend of mine, Roger Lima, runs White Noise Lab, and they do phenomenal sound design. And I remember I had all my business cards like ready to go, like, oh, Roger, I'm gonna make so many friends here. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna hand out my business cards so people know who I am. He's like, look, when you go to conferences, you can't make it transactional. You gotta get to know people the way you'd wanna know friends, be really authentic, find out what kind of music they listen to, what kind of design they're in, what games they play, but really just get to know people on a very, friend level. Don't make it transactional. And it really was the best piece of advice because, some of the folks we met there, like Swarovski, Ant Food, G-Monk, all these people were just so open and honest and conversational about ideas and things that we could try on our own. We met other sound designers, other creatives, and Corey and I really came back just feeling so refreshed from it. So much so that we had this late conversation and basically decided to start Dash. Create this company with this belief in the power of creativity and community. We looked back at some of the things that were really lost at this agency, and it was like, hey, we want to work with great people to make cool stuff, and that's what we set out to do. So Dash is really built on this idea to connect brands to their communities. And one of the reasons we highlight that is because we've really established our own great community. When you hire wonderful people, and you make that your priority, the great work comes. And so I look at this group of people here, most of them are photographed. I just think about all the different hangouts that we have. I mean, we're all remote, which presents its own challenge, but we fly together a couple times a year, get up for these hangouts. I mean, you can really go to bat for the people. It gave me these studio vibes that you kind of remember from back in the day when you're working really closely and you get to know everybody, where you want to go to bat for them. So if you do have a hard project, it's like, hey, I know the other person on the side of this. I want to give them a hand. And that's really ultimately what makes Dash different, because we have clients come to us and they're like, look, why would we want to work with Dash versus anyone else? There's so many great talented people here. You all are in the audience. I mean, we're just surrounded by amazing work. I've just been in awe of all the presentations I've been going to today. The reason people keep choosing Dash and they come back to work with us is our personality. Yes, we make great work. Yes, we deliver it on time, but it's a frictionless process. Gregarious, we love what we do, but we love talking about what we do. I think getting back to the core of what design is in this problem-solving sense and being supportive of your client and working with them is great. It's the reason that we're symbiotic, not only, again, with our teams and trying to bring as many people as we can, but clients kind of get a bad rap sometimes too, with some of the hard feedback that comes in. I think when you can work with clients, find out what they're thinking and kind of problem solve with them is the best. Personally, I believe you've got to be really optimistic in this industry. There's a lot of deadline changes. You need to be more flexible. So we really look at things with a glass half full type approach, right? How can we problem solve? How can we help? We also are really honest and creative, not only what that final product is, but how we get there, and then being transparent with our clients on things they can do. All that stuff is just really critical and a part of who we are. Notice I haven't even shown you any of our work yet. I mean, maybe some of y'all have gone on and looked at it, but again, to me, it's the foundation of building good people is going to yield great work. So with that, all those things we're talking about, here's a little bit of our reel so you can get a bit of a style of how Dash approaches things. Wow, it's super fun. Look, I'm not gonna lie, that's still really cool to see that on a big screen. I'm like, wow, hot damn, look at that, that's great. So Dash, as you can tell, I mean, we're a generalist studio. You know, we love to work on a lot of different things, and I've heard a lot of people say, look, you get good at one thing, you do it over and over again, and that's how you make good money. But God, that sounds so boring. Like, you know, one of the reasons I love working with so many different people is just all the variety you can bring in, all the cool stuff you get to work on. So we do stuff like type-based animation, more kinetic pieces. I don't want to do a whole presentation of portfolio work because you can find that on our site. There are a couple that I can share with you that I think are pretty cool. One is a spot we did for Visible, which is a really kinetic type piece, has some cool visuals with some really great music. I'll play that one for you real quick. Excellent. Thank you. So super kinetic, really energetic, you know, definitely have a very playful style. 2D motion graphics, you know, Raleigh is a very big like tech hub, and naturally animation is an amazing conduit for any sort of complex material. So doing a lot of stuff for the tech world. We do characters, a lot of playful characters. This is what my mom still thinks I do for a living. I don't know if anyone has to explain to your parents what it is that you do. My mom's like, Mack, he does the cartoons. I'm like, well, yeah, Mom, but it's way more professional than that. Come on. But yeah, we can make stuff really fun and silly like Ben down here, or we can do things a little bit more conservative depending on our clients. One project I always really loved is this one for Sakati. It just has this really amazing illustrative kind of aesthetic to it, very cinematic. I'll play a little bit of that for y'all real quick.
Quality. It's what makes Sakati CBD and broad-spectrum hemp extract products different. Our commitment to harnessing the power of nature and science is the foundation for the products we create. Through thoughtful research and development, we've uncovered unique seed genetics that ensures total control of our product and its purity before it's even grown. This makes it possible for our hand-picked farmers to grow a product with a high yield of CBD and other valuable minor cannabinoids like CBG, CBC, and CBN.
Anyway, I'll play it all. But yeah, you get the idea. Not too bad. Mixed media stuff came really big over the pandemic, especially with live action shoots getting canceled. How do we take all this disparate material, unify into one cohesive brand? You know, illustrative pieces, you know, trying to, again, tie into something that's a bit more tactile, a bit more kind of a human story we can get into it. One of my favorite pieces we've done all time is this next one I'm going to share with you, is a spot for Riot Games. Any gamers in here? Anyone play League of Legends? Oh my gosh. Half our staff like died when we got this brief because it was like their dream client. The problem was, please don't tell anyone we do this. We did it in 3 weeks, which is unreal. We had like 15 people working on it in tandem trying to get this done. Clients shouldn't know that we can operate that quickly, but it's a really cool spot, so I'll play a little bit for you right now. Maybe not. Let's try it one more time. Yeah, that was crazy. 3 weeks. I don't even know how we did that. Looking back on it, I don't know what we were thinking. I'm pretty sure I know we had a lot of freelancers helping with us, and I know we were working pretty hard on that one. Do some cool 3D worlds, building complex and unique environments. You know, live action is always fun to me, coming at it from an animation perspective. I think we've all, or most of us have been on like post-production side of things, and you're like, where's the coverage? They didn't film enough. Luckily, you got animators on staff. We can start doing a little bit of stuff to help with it. One project I do want to share is the last one I'll share, and then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty on the value community. Is the spot we did for Nugget. It's a kids furniture company. So we've all been kids playing with furniture, stacking up, making forts and things. This was just really fun because it was about bringing a kid's imagination to life on what they could be playing with this product. So here's the live action animation overlays to go along with it.
Knock, knock. Your Nugget's here. Now what? Come on. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, open it up. Find the perforated lines and pull. Everybody. 2, let it fluff. 3, play with it.
It's a little wrinkly.
Don't worry, this is normal. Your Nugget needs time to decompress just like you.
Okay.
The best way to do that is by creating space for play. Let imagination take over.
Nice. Thank you so much. I don't want to harp on our process too long just because I know a lot of folks have shared process. You are all creatives. This would be something I would share more with the marketing audience. But just at a high level, you know, one of the things that we're always reminded as creatives, again, going back to those symbiotic relationships with our clients, is just what is our ultimate goal? You know, as much as we love to jump in and make stuff and make it look as cool as possible, our clients need impact. They want us to do something with the product we're making. So it starts off for us as discovery. Why are we doing this? Who's it for? What's the purpose of what we're making? Is someone going to look at it when they're 18 years old, or is it a 65-year-old real estate broker? These are all very different audiences, so getting to understand that. Ideation, you know, what do we feel like is the right fit? So our brainstorming that goes into it based on current projects we've done versus stuff we're seeing out there. Messaging, is it conversational? Is it, you know, uplifting? Is it more thought leadership? Trying to decide what that is. Pre-production, production, everything that goes into it, and then last but not least is final files. You know, a quick run through of what that kind of looks like. This is a project we did for Celtra, their marketing automation platform. You know, we really start off simple. What's the script? Left-hand side is a voiceover, right-hand side is a visual. Starts to set the direction. Is it, you know, more, again, abstract on what we're talking about, or is it more grounded in realism? Get into things like character sheets. You know, what's our protagonist going to look like? You know, trying to define just a little bit of their body type, their shape. Style frame, still images to convey the overall look and feel of the project, from color palette to compositional layout. Again, just trying to get our clients to sign on board with what we're doing. We're big believers in detailed storyboards. Any storyboard artists in here? Anyone? Illustrators? Well, shout out to you, because honestly, you make everyone's life that much easier. We can create very clear, succinct storyboards that kind of lay things out. You know, we get into things like animatics, which I'm just going to play a little bit. No need to dim the lights on this one. I'll just talk over it a little bit.
As the head of marketing, you're used to managing big teams and big budgets. Your team's
What a great voiceover. And then all those pieces, come together to get to a final product. And so here's the final piece as it comes together.
As a head of marketing, you're used to managing big teams and big budgets. Your teams are armed with the latest media buying technology, mountains of customer data, and the ability to reach any demographic you can dream of. Why can't you win the attention of consumers?
So anyway, it's about avoiding surprises, as we all know. So really laying that groundwork that goes in there. So again, highlighting Dash really tries to be partners in the space. We believe that the future is for generalists. We believe that the more you can help the client, the more you can do these various things. Working in a variety of work, even adjacent to just 2D and 3D animation, is great. So Dash, we're into our 9th year, which is like unbelievable to me that we've been doing it this long. And when I think about how we've been able to do that, like why we're still here, I think about the fact of conferences like OFFF and these others that I've gone to, where we've really just been creative sponges and trying to absorb as much as possible. After F5, we did some others. We did OFFF. We went to Style Frames, which is the art of the pitch, how big companies pitch their work to clients. It was really great seeing PJ's stuff with laundry and kind of how they go about it. Saw Bucks the other day. It was really impressive, of course, on just some of the fluid experimentation that they have. I mean, I love all that stuff. Just seeing some new perspectives on this. I remember even at the Art of the Pitch seeing man versus machine, and I'm really excited to see them talk here in a little bit. But just trying to get advice from others, not only folks who have been in the industry for a while, but new perspectives on graduating students and people who are just getting in here. Conferences like these are amazing ways to get to know folks. And so when I start to distill down what we've learned over the years and the pieces that we pulled from these conferences and these conversations, there's a lot that I think has sustained Dash and reminded us about why the importance of people is so critical. Because ultimately, when you take care of people, they take care of you. I'm a real big believer that if you put good energy out into the world, the energy is going to be reciprocated. And so this is just a list of some of the things that we do at Dash. Since this is a majority European audience, I know it sounds crazy, but some of these things aren't even covered in the States, as wild as that is. Things like healthcare, that's not a mandated thing in the United States. Companies don't have to provide healthcare. 401k retirement plans, that's something we throw in there, but is not mandated. You don't have to do that. Just some of these little things that we try to do to remind our staff just how much we care. It's investing in things outside of just Dash. It's internships, trying to give interns an opportunity to work on real projects with real clients, getting them paid. A lot of times in the US, folks are pretty nefarious for not paying their interns, which is a little malarkey. So just trying to give students the opportunity to be able to get in on projects and work on things to try it out. Mentorship programs, so something we've tried to do is bring folks from underrepresented communities into the motion design space. I mean, traditionally and historically, motion design has been male and white, and we're trying to change that at Dash. And the way that happens is to leverage some of the connections that we've been able to make. And in fact, this year we partnered up with DemoDuck, another US-based studio that's pretty similar to Dash, to bring in new members from underrepresented communities, find out what they're looking for, how we can help them, and get them to the next place they need to go. Goes back to Tuesday takeovers. I think one of my favorite things about being a creative director and running a studio is really just seeing all the different talented freelancers that are out there. So we wanted to spotlight them. So we started pulling in different freelancers, highlighting their portfolio, showing off their work on our platform just to get people aware of kind of the work that they're doing. MoGraph lunches, over the pandemic, again, I think kind of feeling like we were in isolation, how could we connect more with other studios? Trying to talk to different business owners, do recordings of this stuff, putting it up online to just hear how other studios are navigating these hard times. I think one of my favorite things about these conferences, favorite things about these talks is, again, just hearing that you're not alone in that perspective. I think sometimes it can feel so isolating, like we talked about in the early days of that studio or agency I was with. No one likes to operate in a bubble. So even just hearing affirmations that you're not going through this alone is always a really positive thing. But it's also not just doing things for the outside perspective of the motion community, but taking into account your own team as well. This is probably a hard chart to see, but I want to speak to a couple of things that you're looking at here. One piece that's really important as we try to mitigate things like burnout is making sure that your staff is doing okay. How do you monitor that? How are you checking to make sure they're doing okay? And so one of the things we started implementing is trying to do some more data tracking where on a weekly basis, we use this program called 15.5. It's an American-based program. I personally love it and would highly recommend it. But it allows you to kind of track basically how everyone is doing it at a given point in time. A couple of things we say up here at the very top is how creatively fulfilling was your workload this month, right? We want to make sure that the projects we're taking on as a studio feel fulfilling. I mean, no one wants to sit there and work on projects that are like boring all the time, you know? And if you are working on boring projects, which happens, I know I saw the art and graph talk, you know, about some of the projects that led to other ones. I mean, that stuff does happen. But just making sure, you know, you have one for the meal, one for the real. So that like enables us to see, like, if there's a dip in it, we can bring something in from a studio project. How organized is the project? I mean, by show of hands, who has worked on an unorganized project and it's been like the most stressful thing in the world? Yeah, look at this. It's the worst. So one of the things we really put focus on is, do we have everything ready to kick off a project? Are our freelancers going to be ready? Is our internal team going to be ready? It puts onus on leadership to make sure they're doing their part to support the staff that's working for us. And then this last one is the average pulse. So those top two are done monthly. This one is done on a weekly basis. And it just asks you basically a scale of 1 through 5, how are you doing? How are you doing? It's a simple question, but it has a really impactful answer. Because collectively, if the studio as a whole has a lower score, we're doing something wrong as leadership. You know, that's getting back into the burnout phase where I was previously in my last agency, and it's what made me want to leave and quit not only the industry, but especially that job. So doing this allows us to check in on the pulse of the team, but also as individuals too. So one of my jobs as the co-founder of the studio is to meet with our staff once a month. And so knowing if someone's going through a hard time, you know, and they maybe don't want to talk about it, they can put that data point down. It's a way to say, like, hey, do you need a little time off? Do you need a little bit of a break? What can I do to support you? So you don't feel like, again, that you're in this alone. Another thing is about your creative path. So one of the things that I found especially frustrating was that if you're a creative and you love to make stuff, you get like 3 titles. You get junior, you get mid-level, and you get senior. Is that it? You mean my whole life I want to be a creative? Those are the 3 titles I get if I work with somebody? It just felt like it was unfair for the individual that loves to work on stuff, wants to keep improving and to get better. And so we started to redefine some of the roles within our own studio and the hierarchy that comes with it. We created a individual creative track. So this is for the person who loves to be a creator. They don't want to be a manager, but they want to get better. They want more responsibility. They just don't want to manage people. And so many times I feel like good creatives get pushed into the management side because that's where there's more money or more promotion. So by establishing a creative track, it enables us to keep folks who are good at creating in that line to keep creating. And for the management track, it also offers a bit of clarity too on kind of what that looks like and how to promote and where you can see coming in the future. So all the dark blue definitions are ones that we currently have. The ones that are in red are ones that we anticipate coming in the future. How about pay transparency? You know, one of the things we implemented as a company is trying to at least define some pay ranges and job roles for everyone that works with us. I mean, it seems like a simple thing, but when you think about it as motion designers or creatives that are adjacent to motion design, I mean, how often are we asked to do something that feels a little bit out of our wheelhouse? Oh, you can animate a little bit, why don't you do this? Or you can illustrate a little bit, why don't you do this, right? You know, that's fine when it's part of your job role and you have clear definitions of what that comes with, but for us, it was about going through and really defining what that is so that everyone who's working on it knows exactly what's in their wheelhouse and what's expected of them. And then for us, thinking about the community side of things, it's also trying to create space for us all to get together. You know, OFF is a massively huge creative festival. I mean, there's no way I can meet everyone that attended, but it's just been an amazing time hanging out here and getting to know everyone. We also throw an animation motion design festival in Raleigh, North Carolina called the Dash Bash, and it's about 300 to 500 people. In fact, we're going to be throwing it again in 2025, but one of the reasons we put this on is also to create space for new voices in the industry. You know, there's a lot of really talented folks out there, and I've seen a lot of them on the same sort of circuits. So we really try to create this festival that's inclusive, that brings in new voices. We had a woman, Amanda Gaudreau, who had just graduated, speak at the conference, and then we also had this gentleman named John Rush, who scored as a Foley artist all the sound design for things like Star Wars and Back to the Future, who just retired at 75. And so we're just really proud of some of the voices we've been able to curate there and the variety that kind of comes in. So just again, kind of taking a look at that list. Now, everything I've talked to you about all feels amazing. It's like, cool, Mack started investing in community. They're doing all these great things. Killer. That's not going to give you any details to take away from this other than just some things to look for. You know, if I could be vulnerable with you for a second, this is a lot of stuff that we push out there and we really do believe in, but it doesn't come without the hard work and some low points that came along with it. In 2021, we had thrown that festival, the Dash Bash, and it was a huge success. We had an amazing time. You know, we leaned into this idea of Dash. We connect brands to their communities. We love this community. We're doing all these things for the external community. And then I came in on a Monday morning and I had a calendar invite from my staff. Talk about anxiety for a studio owner. My staff set up a meeting for me and my business partner to talk to. I was unsure about what it was going to be about. I kept thinking in my head like what it could be around. And I came in and the staff was pretty unhappy. They were stretched thin, they were overworked, things felt disorganized, they didn't feel like they had proper creative direction, and they had shared their salaries with one another and recognized the discrepancy between it. I mean, it was a pretty harsh moment for me as a studio owner. And at that moment in my life, I was pouring everything I had into the studio. I mean, working late nights. I don't know if I could have been doing anything more. And that was, I think, the hardest part, is I was literally trying my best and still failing, which is a really horrible place to be. And I think one of the things that I look back on now in that moment is actually the best thing that could have happened. A good buddy of mine told me once that in sales, one of the things you're looking for is like a hard no. Like when you get a hard no, assuming that you don't get a yes, that's what you're looking for. But otherwise, you're looking for a hard no. Because when you get a no, when you get failure, you can really clearly see what went wrong. Why did I miss this step, or what should we be doing differently? And I think 2021 was my moment. We started looking at this and we said, dang, with all this stuff that we're doing, we're not taking care of our staff. We didn't have a lot of those pieces that I just shared. The pay ranges, the growth chart, the one-on-one meetings, all that was missing. And for me, it really reminded me of the importance of trying to create that space and have those conversations with folks. There's a book that I would suggest everyone read who is interested in management or leadership, and it's called Radical Candor. Some of you may be familiar with this, but the book is this idea that if you build great relationships with folks, that you understand them, you trust them, you believe in them, that you can have real and honest and transparent conversations. Our staff, to their credit, came to us with these problems and laid it on the table. It was a hard conversation, and we've all been a part of some uncomfortable conversations. But I'm still so thankful that they brought it to me to have that conversation. They could have left, they could have quit, they could have said, forget this place, but they brought it to us and they allowed us to kind of meet in the middle. Because, at the end of the day, I think sometimes it's so easy to forget how we're all still very human. We're all trying to navigate this space. I mean, my background's design, and now I'm running a company, I'm learning a lot along the way, and we all are. And to quote another book for you, Brene Brown, she talks about showing up in the arena. And we're always so hard on ourselves on creatives, whether a studio owner doing something like that, you're creative, you make a mistake, or you feel like you misstep. At the end of the day, you're still showing up, you're putting yourself out there, you're creating work, and you're putting it out in the world, and that's something to be proud of. If we have all the information, at our fingertips, we can make a better decision, but you're just making decisions on what you have at the time. And so for us, it just takes work. And so what I mean by that slide is essentially that you try things, you put it out there. If it doesn't work, that's okay. You learn from it and keep moving forward, but that's the importance of having these good relationships. So with the value of community, there's sort of these three takeaways that I have that I wanted to talk about today. And to set that up is this first slide. So this is Rutger Bregman, a historian from the Netherlands, says, if we believe most people can't be trusted, that's how we'll treat each other, to everyone's detriment. Few ideas have as much power to shape the world as our view of other people. If you expect the worst, you'll find the worst. If you expect the best, you'll find the best. Putting trust in people is a critical and foundational piece to who we are as a studio. So one of the things that we found on the value of community was financial stability. So leading up to this talk, I was really curious. Dash has been around now for 9 years. And so of all the work we had taken on, I was thinking through how much of that work has actually come from like friends, acquaintances, people that have recommended us. How many has come from the community that we've been investing in by going to all these conferences over the years? So when I look at this chart, this is our top 10 clients based on revenue that they've spent with us over the last 9 years. Any guesses from the audience on what percentage of that came from someone that referred us? 20%, 30%? Any guesses? Shout it out. 50? 80? 100? Oh, not a bad guess. So found out, keep you suspense here, 60%, about 60% of our top 10 clients came from someone that we knew or they recommended us. And it's just so interesting for me to look at this. That very top bar at the top, that is a client that we work with that came from a freelancer who attended the Dash Bash. So we threw that conference, freelancer comes there, they're working with this client, and the client comes to them and says, hey, we have all this work that we need help with. He's like, look, I'm just an individual freelancer. You need to go talk to a studio. Well, what studio would you recommend? Well, Dash just threw this Dash Bash. They're doing all this community stuff. You should go talk to them. Now they became our biggest client. That second bar up there is a referral from a competing studio, someone that would technically be our competitor in this space. They said, you know what, this really isn't a project for us. You should send it to Dash. This is way more your alley. That's our number 2 client we've had. That third bar from the top are folks that my business partner and I worked with at our old agency. These are folks that we started off from the ground up. We've gotten to know each other. It goes back to knowing them on a personal level, being authentic, not transactional. And then it's like, hey, we have these projects coming up. I'd love to support you. The biggest secret of this industry is that your biggest projects are going to come through text messages. They're going to come through friends. They're not necessarily going to come out of the blue. It does happen, but you can bet your money that most of it's going to come from someone you know. And that's extrapolated across the rest of our projects. 74% of them came from a personal connection, right? And so it's easy sometimes to say, well, I'm too busy. I don't know if I could do off this year. Or I don't know if I should go to this conference. When the reality is most of the work that you're going to be winning is going to be a result of friends in the space who are helping refer you. So the other piece of the value of community is health. Connection, not hatred, is the glue that makes us feel we truly belong. Loneliness is a subjective feeling that you're lacking the social connections you need. That's written by Vivek Murthy. He's the Surgeon General of the United States and basically oversees the health operations of the government of the US. Traditionally, they have a focus on like cancer or heart disease, some of the bigger pieces that have been affecting a lot of Americans. But Vivek came in and basically was saying, look, it's not those two that are the biggest things we need to worry about, it's loneliness. Loneliness is an epidemic that's especially risen after the pandemic, right? We're siloed, we're working by ourselves, and the importance of mental health. I mean, this is a pretty staggering statistic to me, but suicide is now the second leading cause of death for folks 44 and under in the US, and there's approximately 1 death every 11 minutes from it. I mean, that's a horrible statistic. And the reason that we're able to avoid things like that is getting together to release these powerful cocktails of oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin that we get when we talk to other people who, unlike our parents, know what we do for a living, So the importance of your mental health is supported here by getting out when you connect with the industry. The third piece of this is education. Just being a lifelong learner. The conversations that you're having in events like this are so critical. There's this older book written by Dale Carnegie. It's actually written in the 1930s, but it actually plays a lot to today's world as well, too. Every person I meet is superior in some way. And what I think Dale means by this, and something that I gravitate towards, is that every person you talk to, every conversation you have, you can get something and learn something new. Whether you're new into the space, your voice matters. Whether you've been here for a long time, your voice matters. And to talk with other people and share those ideas that you have. We can't choose not to age, but we can choose how we will age. I'm giving you all the book quotes, so here's a lot of reading for y'all coming up. But Dan Levitin talks about like aging with grace. How do we prepare ourselves for the future? And the reality is a lot of it comes back to this term called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity was something that came when you were a kid. You're learning multiple language, how easy it is for kids to do that. It's because they're making all these new connections because they're learning new pieces. And the reality is that that's something that we all need to be doing as well, too. So being a lifelong learner, getting into more creative pursuits, intellectual challenges, and social engagements. By coming to events like this and simply just having conversations and being challenged on new ideas and thinking through new problems, you're making that neuroplasticity, you're making those new connections, which is really valuable for the future. So to me, when I think about finding your community, I always have thought about design as problem solving, but the older I get, the longer Dasher is around, the more I think it's about a supporting role, not necessarily a problem-solving role. I think supporting role because, you think about your friends you're really close with. You're not only talking to them when they have a problem. You're talking to them because you care about them, you're interested in them, you want to know what's going on in their life, you want to know the details. And we really try to apply that same approach to our staff as well as our clients as well. We're not just checking in and saying, hey, is there anything I can help you solve with? It's like, what's going on? What's been up to? You really want to get to know them on a personal level because it's really those personal connections. It's the value of community that's going to give you financial stability, that's going to give you the health benefits that you need, and it's going to give you the education pieces to last longer in this space. For me, the last few days here have just been phenomenal. I'm just so blown away by Barcelona and all the different people that I've gotten to meet and just how much fun I've been having. Because honestly, we're in such a special space. The fact that you can come here and just hang out with complete strangers who are so eager to get to know you and excited to hear your background is just a phenomenal place to be. I mean, it's not lost on me just how lucky we are to be in this space and what a great environment. By a show of hands, who would like to meet someone new this weekend? Who would like to? Would you be open to it? Anyone? Anyone? No, I'm just kidding. Most of you raised your hand, right? Which is great. I mean, if you looked around, you saw these people raising your hand. If there's ever a moment to reach out and to make a new connection, to feel brave, to walk up to someone and get to know them, to chat about them, to learn where they're from, what makes them tick, and what they're interested in, it's this conference. And I guarantee you, if you do that and you put yourself out there, you're going to get the support you need as time comes. I'm going to wrap this up with a couple of things here. First, I have to give a shout out to my good friend, Ricardo Roberts. Ricardo's in the audience somewhere. Where are you, Ricardo? You out there? Ricardo! Amazing. So Ricardo Roberts, if you don't know, runs an inclusive motion design studio called BN. They're fantastic. Their team is amazing. I got to meet a lot of them today. I'm so excited to be a part of it. Ricardo's leading this push for the Creative Codex. It's for international definitions of what it is we do. You know, we throw around these terms like motion design, keyframes, style frames, all these things. We've all had issues explaining to our clients what it is they do for a living. And Ricardo and his team and a bunch of other studios and freelancers and creatives are all chipping in to help create this codex so we have a universal language that we can use to define what it is we do. I know they're always looking for help, so if you're interested in being involved with the community, I encourage you to scan this QR code, reach out to Ricardo. Ricardo's going to raise his hand again so you know where he is. There you are, Ricardo. Talk to him. He can get you connected in this, and we'd love your input as well. If you're curious about the Dash Bash and you're like, hey, North Carolina, I now know where that is on a map. Congratulations. Definitely encourage you all to come. We're officially announcing today that we're throwing it again in 2025. It's going to be in May. No one else knows this except for you. It's a cool thing about OFF. You can make new announcements. Cool. So, you know, tickets are not on sale yet, but if you scan this QR code, it takes you to Instagram, where you can, of course, learn a bit more, follow along with us. So as we're posting those announcements and there's new things coming out, we may even have a secret discount for OFF attendees. So keep an eye out. But if you follow Instagram, you'll get more details on that. And then the last slide I have here, you know, if you are intrigued by Dash, you're intrigued by the community aspect of what we do, and you want to continue to follow along with some of the things we're putting out there, maybe you want to be a part of our Tuesday takeovers if you're an animator or illustrator, designer, freelancer, definitely give us a follow. We'd love to chat. And thank you so much for your time. Yeah.